Whenever I feel down, I like to crawl into bed with a giant brick of cheddar cheese, put the soundtrack to Last of the Summer Wine on repeat, and temporarily avert the overwhelming melancholy that surrounds every waking moment of my life by looking at old books or magazines that remind me of the good old glory days. A better time, a time when my body wasn't broken down and riddled with a mix of fatigue, sadness, and extreme irritability at the bin collectors. If this is what ails you, might I capture your interest with a dose of pure miniature gaming nostalgia? Hold on to your hats, because the world's premier Oldhammer painting competition has just ended, and this year the bar was raised even further than I thought possible. The Olden Demon painting competition is run so that hundreds of people can dust off some miniatures made before the turn of the millennium, give them a fresh lick of paint, and show them off for all to see on the internet. It's like the Squidmar Open, except I'm not sponsored by BetterHelp, because I know that the best thing to do is to push all of those emotions down until they go away. Stiff upper lip and all that. It's the British way. This year we had an astonishing 358 entries, blowing last year's total out of the water. They are all available on Instagram if you want to search for the hashtag Olden Demon, but as a special treat I have made an almost 1 hour long exclusive narrated slideshow over on my Ko-fi account as a little reward for the brave souls who have been supporting this channel. Space Wolf. Yeah, I do need to rehydrate, I'm really thirsty. There are loads of other reasons to support me on Ko-fi. It's like Patreon, only much nicer looking and with less conversion rate because most people don't already have an account. You get to have early access to all my videos, monthly behind the scenes posts and exclusive artwork. Plus at the higher tiers you can see your name in lights in every video I make. Or you could just sign up for this for no other reason than to help me justify running this channel to my confused and worried relatives. The cold hard facts here are that money makes these things happen, so if you want to keep these sponsorships of non-miniature game companies on this channel to an absolute minimum, and ideally completely gone, please support me from as little as £2 a month. Content creators deserve your support, otherwise next year the only thing that'll be left on YouTube will be AI generated videos of Bigfoot driving monster trucks. Because that's where the internet is going, baby. We are on a highway to hell, and at the wheel is an unstoppable group of multinational companies trying to exterminate art while we all seek new employment in the Gigafactories. Now back to the competition, and the number of people who entered is amazing. Okay, it's not the 600 plus number that Duncan Rhodes got for his Sir Coates Masters competition, nor is it the 700 to 1,000 that the real Golden Demon competition has been known to pull in. And it's not the over 2,000 that the Cult of Paint guys got with their online miniature painting open, or the nearly 3,000 that the Squidmar Open drew, but considering I've disqualified about 95% of all the miniatures that have ever been produced, and then insisted that the remaining few jump through my arbitrary hurdles and have a goblin green style base, the amount of entries is an astonishingly high number. Also, it's just as well I didn't have 1,000 entries because sifting through over 300 was hard enough. It turns out a lot of you out there are incredibly talented. At one point I was considering giving bronze place to 4 different pieces. In fact, after the first cut I was left with 92 entries. I go through the entire field in the larger video, but for now I'll leave you with this mouth-watering appetizer. We had Chieftain Grom's Goblin War Chariot, some plastic goblins painted on sprue, a resculpted Hero Quest Gobbo, a Genestealer Patriarch on Goblin Green paint bottle plinth, a Terminator painted then resealed in its original blister pack, a Burning Metal Elder Avatar, a hugely converted Mad Doctor, a properly grimdark Night Goblin Leader, Starsnick and Gobbler, an amazing modern take on Nazgob, Lord Skrulk with incredible freehand, an ultra vibrant Chaos Dwarf, and a classic Marauder Miniatures Vampire. All amongst the many, many others. It took me the best part of a couple of days to go through all of these, and if it wasn't for Matt Avis's incredible, excellent software that made it easy to sort through all of these, it would have taken me much, much longer. Matt hosts the Golden Demon Compendium and is also deserving of your support, so if you want to help out with that massive ongoing project, his Patreon account is linked in the description below. Eventually, I managed to whittle this huge number down into a more manageable batch of commended entries. And honestly, if you are in this group, then well done. You are already in the top few % of painters in the world who entered, and you were a whisker's length away from taking home one of the top spots. These are all 11 commended entries. We have a 2nd edition Gretchen by Ryan Norton, a Tyrannid Lictor by Steve Kind, an Orlok Leader by Uray Miniatures, Hive Scum with a Gold Gun by David Roberts, Mephiston Lord of Death by Dietz, Ultramarines Captain by Matt Stubbens, Tactical Space Marine by Dean Lecoq, and for the fantasy category we had a Warhammer Quest Elf Ranger by Xavier Rodriguez Lorenzo, a Hero Quest Barbarian by Julian Oliver, Plaguebearer by Blood as Medium, and a High Elf Mage by Sten Frodin. If this was an open system, you would all be walking away with a physical prize, and if it wasn't for the incredibly expensive custom charges to send out objects to people in every corner of the world, I would be seriously considering it. However, I have worked out a compromise. Everyone other than those 11 painters mentioned now has to shut their eyes and promise not to peek so I can exclusively show them all a small digital treat. You have 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Thanks for entering and being commended. Enjoy this thing I made for you. And it's gone, and everyone else can now reopen their eyes. This is a brilliant idea. Why don't more people do this exclusive content within videos? Obviously the winners of the bronze, silver and gold prizes should have shut their eyes for that last bit, but if you are one of the 6 winners I'm about to show off, message me after finishing this video and I'll show you the image myself. Or you can simply go back and check. It's up to you. Also, if you like Oldhammer style artwork, stay to the end of this video because I might have a treat waiting for you. On with the show, and speaking of the devil, it's time for the main event, and boy oh boy. Just to give you an overview of how good at painting these 6 people are, I looked up their stats on the Olden Demon compendium, and in total their combined haul has been 9 gold Olden Demon trophies, 7 silver, 8 bronze, as well as a pair of Slayer swords for best in show. So it kind of goes without saying that these are the really big guns of miniature painting. These talented people will be walking away with some excellent paintbrushes from Artist Opus, and the gold place entries will have a full set containing 4 different brushes and some delicious brush soap, all housed in a tasteful display box. Thanks to Artist Opus for sponsoring this video competition, they truly are the best. They won't actually tell you this on their website or marketing materials, but using their products makes you not only a better painter, but also a better person. It's true. Starting with the sci-fi category, in bronze we have Darren Latham's Space Wolf Sergeant. This has incredibly smooth, subtle shading and tasteful finishing with extra details like the highlighting on the freehand of the shoulder pads, knee and purity seal. He even rebased it for the competition. That is dedication to the cause. Give this man more money, Games Workshop. In silver we have Karandras by Tony Kant Minis. Again, this is an incredibly smooth paint job on such an old miniature. Really nice extra reflections on the non-metallic parts, and he has kept that standard up all the way around the model. I particularly love the heat effects from the chainsword. This is a job very well done by Tony. Finally, taking home the gold award, we have an Orc Bad Moon Boss by Alexandre Gier. This immediately popped out at me. It looks absolutely fantastic. The gun itself looks like it's rendered out of a comic book with the lighting effects. It's amazing how with all the truly great artworks you could look at it again and again and find new areas of detail each time. The blister on the chin, the reoccurring black flame details on everywhere from the gun sight to the shoulder pads and the back of the boots. And of course, the cheeky glint in his eye. Is he smiling? Is he thinking about some cunning plan he is about to enact? This is our generation's Mona Lisa. Congratulations! I hope I pronounced your name correctly. After all that, I need a cigarette. But wait, it doesn't stop there. We still have to look at the fantasy entries. Without further ado, in bronze we have Nazgob Orc Shaman by Dean Lecoq. Another amazing job painting an orc. What pushed this over the edge was the amazingly detailed bone staff embedded with jewels and painted to emphasize the parts that have been carved into it. Plus, it has an incredible use of colors. The jewels matching the bangle was very nice. very tasteful. This might be one of the top sculpts of old time, especially for the orcs. In silver, we have Night Goblin by Marco Pacini. This is an amazing job on such a small miniature. The face is the standout part due to the amazingly rendered skin, and the warts are painted in such a way as to be glassy and slightly transparent. The rest is also very smoothly done, with the subtle shading on the robe that turns the shadows warm and the highlights cold. Look at the inside of the hand holding the dagger. That's a really nice bit of detail work. This man knows what he's doing, and I suspect what he's going to do now is to take this straight off of the base, stick it on a larger diorama, and proceed to win an actual Golden Demon award with it, making me look like a total idiot for only placing it in silver. He's done that before, and I'm sure he'll do it again. Finally, drum roll please, wouldn't you know who is taking home the top prize this year? It's John Murphy with his Warhammer Quest Elf Ranger. Oh my goodness, if you are counting here, there is one non-metallic effect for the swords, another for the runes on the swords, another for the edges of the armour and sword hilts, and a fourth for the mithril scale armour that gives it an almost glass-like effect, as well as the blue shading on the War Crown of Tyrannok, the classic magical item from Warhammer Quest that the Ranger is wearing. He has even painted a halo of light reflecting inside the larger gems. Very nicely done. This really stood out to me, and after a few years of being off the top spot, John finally takes it for this absolute beauty. Congratulations to everyone who entered, but we aren't quite done yet. Because if you want to enter next year's competition, hold up. Because this competition will be evolving. In fact, it will be expanding. The competition has grown at such a rate that it's becoming increasingly harder to keep to the spirit of the original idea. The top two questions I get every year are, can I enter a younger miniature, followed by queries over how much of the base needs to be green. Every year I get amazing entries by people who have just slightly bent the rules enough where I can't really justify placing them higher against models that have stuck to the theme. Which is fine, they are after all your models and you can paint them however you see fit. In addition, there is an argument that says that if I'm going to be spending weeks and weeks painting a miniature, I'd like to ensure it will stand on its own in a quote, proper painting competition. Well, fear not, I have you covered. Next year there will be 4 categories instead of the usual 2. The rules for classic sci-fi and classic fantasy categories will be the same, but tighter, i.e. the miniature must be produced by Games Workshop, Citadel Miniatures or Marauder Miniatures before the year 2000. The top 3 will be gold, silver and bronze with a number of commended entries, except you must have a classic green base. However, if you aren't down with that, then the first of the new categories will be classic freestyle. Broadly speaking, this is open to any out-of-production model by any major miniature games company. You want to paint a slightly younger model? No problem. You don't want to use a green base? No problem. You want to paint an out-of-production model from another company like Infinity or Confrontation? No problem. You want to make major conversion work to custom build a miniature or just replace some parts of it that are lacking in detail? Again, no problem. You want to use modern parts and add them onto an old model? No problem. Also, since old miniatures are getting increasingly harder to get hold of, the classic freestyle category will also be open to modern miniature producers that produce miniatures in the classical style. Companies that use traditional hand-sculpted methods for small batch production, like Nightmare Miniatures, Trish Cardan's Harrowhurst, Mammoth Miniatures, Osmotic Meld, Meridian Miniatures, and any other small batch producers. Or alternatively, 3D designed miniatures that keep to a traditional style, like Ontos Games. Or any other small batch company that gives the classical miniature vibes. Doing this allows me to spread the love around for some of the smaller companies out there who are mining the rich vein of nostalgia for your enjoyment. If this sounds like your thing, the classic freestyle category is for you. But that isn't all, because I'm going to do something no one has done before in a miniature painting competition. Not remove all of my clothes and run around. I'm pretty sure no one's done that before, but I wouldn't hold it past some of the people at Olden Demon. There will be instead a 4th category. For years now, I have scrolled through the accursed Instagram and seen some amazing pieces of Oldhammer inspired artwork. Retro style artworks that manage to capture a nostalgia for a long lost age despite being made recently. Artists like Paths Peculiar, The Art of Schweiger, Tears of Envy, Dinium, Rich Mason, Anvil of Doom, and Aaron Howdell. In the face of an entire epoch of traditional artists looking up at the proverbial meteorite hurtling towards them in the shape of AI image generation, Olden Demon will host the first ever classical artwork category. The rules are simple. Make retro-inspired art, either physically, digitally, or simply an object that isn't a traditional miniature. Of course, by my own rules, it's entirely possible that John Blanche, Ian Miller, or Paul Bonner could enter, in which case, we all win. The deadline for all of these categories will be the 31st of May 2026, assuming the machines haven't taken over by that point. So, in conclusion, this year's winners will be up on the Olden Demon website's Hall of Fame soon. The full rules for next year's competition will be there as well. If you have any questions, chuck them in the comments and I'll update the website. And a massive video of this year's entries is currently available on the Olden Demon Ko-fi page to keep you going until 2026. Time to start scouring eBay. Please subscribe and I'll see you next time.